We live in an era of vast material wealth, yet we are collectively exhausted. We have climate control, endless calories, and padded chairs, but we've traded our peace of mind for a claustrophobic, low-grade panic about where we stand on the social ladder. We are terrified of losing the things we've accumulated, and equally terrified of failing to acquire more. It is a psychological treadmill where the speed only increases, demanding more hours, more output, and more consumption just to keep from falling off. This tension doesn't vanish at higher income brackets. It mutates. The stakes simply get higher. Upgrading to gated estates and luxury zip codes doesn't buy an exit from the race. It just builds a larger, more expensive, and more stressful enclosure to maintain. This relentless drive for acquisition is not the path to liberation it promises to be. It acts exactly like an infection of the human mind, and a severe sickness often requires a radical, almost shocking cure. Diogenes of Sinope arrived in the status-obsessed city of Athens to serve as a brutal physician for the human soul. He was a refugee who had lost everything, but he carried a philosophy that made the wealthiest citizens look like paupers. He took one look at the baseline comforts of Athenian society and rejected all of them. For a house, he claimed a massive clay wine cask abandoned near the temple of Cybele, sleeping on the hard ground and making a mockery of the real estate market. He owned almost nothing, but even that was too much. According to historical accounts, he was once carrying his last few possessions when he saw a young boy scoop up water from a puddle using nothing but his bare hands. Diogenes immediately threw away his own wooden bowl. He realized that this simple piece of carved wood was a luxury tying him down. The child had beaten him in the art of simplicity. To the casual observer, he looked like a vagrant, but Diogenes was a calculated philosopher. He weaponized his poverty, using it as a deliberate wake-up call to wealthy Athenians who had forgotten how to be free. This chart breaks down the origin of cynicism. The term derives from the Greek word kynikos, meaning dog-like. For Diogenes, dogs lived perfectly. They ate when hungry, slept when tired, and ignored social hierarchy entirely. He believed humans should do the same, stripping away artificial laws to align strictly with nature's bare requirements. He put this into practice immediately. He doubled over his simple cloak to serve as both clothing and a sleeping bag, and carried a small leather wallet to hold whatever scraps of food he could scavenge. He made himself indistinguishable from a stray animal on the streets. There was a hard logical foundation to this poverty. Diogenes argued that the gods are perfect because they require nothing. Therefore, the human being who wants the fewest things is the one who comes closest to the divine. To force Athenians to see their own absurdity, he deployed theatrical shock tactics. He famously marched through the crowded, sunlit marketplace, holding a lit lantern, peering into people's faces and loudly declaring that he was searching for a single, honest human being. He deliberately violated every social taboo he could find. When reprimanded for eating a meal right in the middle of the marketplace, a serious faux pas in ancient Athens, he calmly replied that it was in the marketplace that he felt hungry. He was proving that the fear of public opinion is an invisible cage. By publicly discarding his reputation and his possessions, Diogenes made himself untouchable. You cannot steal from a man who owns nothing, and you cannot humiliate a man who feels no shame. Total invulnerability is achieved only by needing nothing from anyone else. The man who needed nothing was about to face the man who owned everything. This encounter represents the collision of two opposing worlds. While Diogenes was resting near his clay jar in Corinth, a dark shadow fell over him. It was Alexander the Great. Alexander stood at the apex of human ambition, commanding vast armies and holding the power of life and death over millions. He was the embodiment of the ancient rat race. Standing over the ragged philosopher, the most powerful man on earth made an offer of unlimited authority. He told Diogenes to ask for any favor in the known world, and it would be granted. Wealth, land, power, all of it was on the table. Diogenes looked up at the conqueror and delivered a response that has echoed for millennia. He simply said, "Stand a little out of my sun." In a single sentence, the dynamic flipped. The emperor had nothing the beggar wanted. Alexander was bound by the endless, exhausting need to conquer the next city and appease his massive ego. Diogenes was already satisfied with the warmth of the sun. The man with nothing was the only truly free man in the exchange. Diogenes' life functions as a mirror, using his radical extremes to expose the illusions we accept as normal. His example isn't a demand that we live in clay pots. It is a lens to view our own attachments. We spend decades stressing over corner offices, designer labels, and square footage, convincing ourselves these things provide security. Instead, they demand constant maintenance and higher payments, turning us, as Diogenes warned, into indentured servants to our own appetites. When you filter modern life through the cynic perspective, the pressure drops immediately. A missed promotion or a neighbor's new car suddenly looks like two people fighting over scraps in a prison cafeteria. The anxiety loses its teeth. Consider the modern master of the universe. They step out of luxury vehicles, heavily guarded by private security, yet their posture often radiates stress, paranoia, and the constant grinding fear of losing their position. Contrast that with the ragged man sleeping in the dirt. He had no bank accounts, no bodyguards, and no reputation to uphold. Yet he achieved a state of complete, untouchable tranquility simply by walking off the playing field. We build our own cages out of the things we refuse to let go of. The modern rat race is exhausting. It is endless, and it is entirely voluntary. It only has power over your mind if you